Today I want to show you a simple way to back up your n8n workflows and credentials to GitHub and also restore it if your server crashes. So we are going to use cron job to automate the backup process, which will run after every minute. So if you look on my screen, I've created some scripts that are going to be used for the automation, both for the backup and also for the restoration. So just to give you a demonstration on how things work, here I have my n8n running on this URL. And I have already configured it with GitHub so that it can be backed up after every minute. So if you just look at this repository, it's a private repository so that no one else can access this information, since there are critical credentials that are not supposed to be accessed by anyone else. So here is the initialization that I made yesterday, and I can just show you an example if I make any change in my n8n. So let me just try to create a new workflow, and then I save it. So after every minute, for now you can look at it, you don't see any, all of them are 19 hours. The latest one is 3 minutes ago. So if I just come here and and then just save this new workflow. Yeah, I've just saved this new workflow. So if you go back to this repository that I've backed up the whole n8n data, if I just try to refresh, you'll see there's a new commit. You can see now we have a new commit. So every time you make any change in your n8n server, all the changes will be backed up to your GitHub. So we're going to make this whole process. I'm going to show you the whole process of doing all this. So the first thing you need to do is to just go to your server that is running n8n. So I have my server running. I have hosted it in Oracle Cloud, and I'm using terminus to access it using SSH. Yeah. So this is the server. So let me just log in. And I have already configured it. So if you just look at just list. So I just want to delete everything that is going on inside here. So that you can start afresh. So let me just delete. Yeah. So now we are ready to start. So in this script that we have here, let me just make sure that this workflow, this n8n is working. Yeah, everything is just working. So what I'm going to do, I have this script that I created, and in this readme file, I have all the instructions that you need to, all the code that you need to run to make sure this whole process works. And it's just copy pasting. You don't have to write anything. So let me just read the first thing you need to do. You need to make sure that your server has Git installed. And in my case, I had already installed Git. So in your case, if you don't have Git installed in your server, you just need to run this code here. So just copy and then paste it in your server. So in my case here, the server that I'm using is this one. And you just need to run this script. So let me just run it, so that I don't miss anything here. So I'll just go to terminus and then paste it here. So make sure that you have Git installed, since this is the one that is going to be used for the backup process. So this is the first step we are completing. So the second step will be, let me just go back to the notes. We need to create a GitHub repository and a personal access token. So the first thing you need to do is to create a repository that we are going to back up the n8n data. So I'll just create a repository here, and I'll just go to my GitHub and then create a new repository. So I'll just create a new repository, and if you look here, you can just name it the way you want, but I'm just going to name it n8n backup. So that is the name of the repository that I'm going to create right now, and this is the name I'm going to use here. And make sure in this section for choose visibility, make sure it is private, since we are going to back up your credentials, which are not supposed to be accessed publicly. So I'm just going to change this to private. It's only you who is supposed to access these scripts here. So I'll just go and create the repository. I hope now you know. Just make sure that you know the name of the repository that you have used, which in our case we have used n8n backup. So this is the name of the repository that we're going to use to back up our n8n data. The whole of the data will be stored here. So the next step will be, we have already created the repository. So the next thing is to create personal access token. So this will be created through, well, I removed the nodes here, but well, let me just show you where the personal access token is being created. So if you are inside your GitHub account, there's this section here at the right top corner, which we are going to use. Just click it and then go to settings, and then from the settings you'll just scroll down to where you have developer settings. So this is where we're going to click, and then we click the personal access token. Here is where we are interested in, and then tokens here, the classic one. So I'll just click the tokens, and here is where we are going to create our new token. So generate a new token and then create the classic one for general use. This is the one that we're going to use in this section. So just click that one and then I'll just give it a name. So, well, I'll just write it this way since I'm going to delete this token. Yeah, since you'll already have seen the whole token and I don't want anyone to use it. So under the expiration, you'll just need to select no expiration, unless you want to use it for a few days or months and then delete it. But in your case, you want to back up your n8n data every time, so you need to make sure that you select no expiration. And then under the select scope, you just select the repository, since it will be interacting with the repositories only. So just select the repo. Yep. So after that, just scroll and generate token. So here we have our token created. So I'll just copy this token and, well, I'll just put it inside. Just save it somewhere else, since you are going to use it. You're going to use it in the next steps, and you want to be shown this token after you close this page. So make sure that you save it in a safe place. So after that, let's just go to the next step here, which will be, now we have created our repository and we have created our personal access token. So the next thing is to clone this repository in your server, so that we can have these two scripts there, which is the backup and the restore. But in our case right now, we're going to use the backup only, and then the one that we're going to restore, the n8n data, we're going to use the restore SSH. So in this case, you're just going to clone this whole repository and just copy this, then go to your server and paste it there. So I'll just paste and then click enter. So in our case, we have been directed to that directory of that, what do we call it, repository. So if I just try to list items there, we can see we have the 3 items, the 3 files that we have in our repository, meaning we have all the data here. So the next thing we're going to do is to make the scripts executable. So just copy this command here and then go back to your terminal in your server and then paste the 2 commands, and now they will be executable. So the next thing, it will be open the backup script. So I'll just open it, and here is where we're going to make some changes. If you see in our notes, we need to edit this fields so that you can have your real information. So the first thing is the n8n. Let me just go back to the server. So the volume name will be n8n data. That is the one that is by default being used by n8n. And then in case you changed it, you need to make sure that you change it here too. So GitHub username, I'm just going to use my username. So this will be your username for your GitHub account, not mine, your GitHub username. So in my case, it will be Ong'udi done. And then the repository name is the one that you created that you want your n8n to be backed up in. So in our case, we used n8n backup. And then the GitHub personal access token, I just saved it here. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it. So just make sure you paste it here. And that's all you need to do, and then Control X and then Y. So now we have configured everything. So the only thing you need to do is to just run the script. Running the script will be, let me just follow the notes here so that I don't lose track. So in case you're running this inside a local environment like Kali Linux, you'll be asked for password. And this script needs sudo permissions. So if you're running inside Kali Linux, it will always ask you for password. So if you use this script for cron job inside cron job, it won't work since you'll be requested to put your password first and then the script will be executed. So you need to make sure that you add an exception. So in our case, but in our server, we are not being asked any password when we run with sudo commands, meaning everything will be working fine. But in your Linux machine, you're always asked for password. So you need to make sure that you run sudo vsudo. So I'll just show you an example inside my Linux environment here, but we are not going to use this Linux right now unless you want me to create a tutorial for installing this whole process inside Linux environment. But currently we're just using a server. So in this case, let me just open up my terminal inside Linux, and then you just need to run sudo vsudo, and then you see we are going to be asked for password, and then I'll just write my password. So what you're going to do, you're going to add this line at the bottom. So let me just go and copy this line here. So I'll just copy this and then add this line at the bottom of this script, and then you are going to change your username to your own username. In my case, it is done, and then the first line also it is your username. So this line, make sure that when you're accessing this file, you want to be asked for password. The user has been authorized to access this file without being asked for password. So I'll just save this. So in case you are running this script inside your cron job as a cron job, and you're using sudo at the beginning, you want to be asked for password. That is the whole concept of this process here. So let me just close this. So in our case, in our server, we are not being asked for password. Let me just show you something. If we just run sudo nano, you see we are not being asked for password when we use sudo. So meaning we are safe here. So the next thing we are going to do, let me just skip this part. So we are just going to run this script manually to make sure that it is running. So currently, I'm just going to open the repository that we have created so that we can see the changes being made. It is n8n backup here. So currently we don't have any files uploaded here. So if I just go back to my terminal, not terminal, I'll just copy this, run the manual backup. I'll just copy this command here and then go back to my server terminal and then paste it there. So if I click enter, a repository already initialized, check for changes already in main, your branch is up to date. Well, I think I had already initialized whatever repository, the previous one. So let me just delete the repository first. So what I'll do is inspect. So this is the link of that path. So I'm going to remove the Git folder. So let me just try to run the script again. Yeah, sudo, then backup. Yeah, now you can see it is being backed up. Yeah, I had already initialized the GitHub previously for the demonstration, so I had to delete the Git directory that had been created earlier. So now we have initialized the script, and also we have pushed all the content that are inside this directory here. Yeah, inside this directory we have pushed everything. So let's go back to our repository and try to refresh and see if we have everything here. And now you can see we have pushed everything inside our GitHub, and you can see it has been pushed just right now. So what we're going to do is to make sure that we back up, we check for every change inside this directory. Yeah, inside this directory we are supposed to check for changes after every minute. So every time you make any change in your n8n server, some files will be edited inside this directory, which will include the SQLite database and also some log files. So you need to make sure that you check for changes every time. So to do that, we are going to use cron. So in this case, since we are not being asked for password when we run sudo, that is a good thing. So just go to my script here. We are on number 8, step 8. So we're going to copy cron tab. So you're going to run cron tab -e. If you don't have cron tab installed, you will just be given the code here. In case it is not installed, you'll just be given. So in our case, you're just going to type cron tab -e, and you'll be directed to this page where you're going to edit this file using nano. And let's go back to our notes. What we're going to add inside here, we're going to add this line, and you're going to make sure that it is running with sudo privileges. So copy this command and then go back to your server, and we're going to paste it as the last line here. So just paste it, and what we're going to change is the username, your user. If you're using Oracle Cloud, the user that you're being given will be Ubuntu. Or if you just look at, okay, let me just cancel this so that we can see where the user is. The user that we are using is this one here. If you look at the terminal, the user is the first name that you see before @ So this is the user that we are going to use. And so let me just run cron tab -e and then paste that line again. So user will be Ubuntu. So in our case, user will be Ubuntu. Yeah, now we have finished the whole setup. So just press Ctrl X and then Y and press enter to save the changes. So right now we have configured everything. So let me just try to look at the changes here. Currently we don't have any changes inside our GitHub. Yeah. So let me try something. I'm going to add a new workflow here. Let me just delete this workflow and see if we'll have a new commit. Yeah, so let me archive this and then let's go back to our GitHub. So it will be running after every minute. So let me just wait and let's just refresh and see if we have any new commit. So let's just give it some time so that it can commit. Let's refresh and see. Now you can see we have a new commit, meaning our cron job is working very well. So this whole process is just as simple as you can see. I've created these scripts that are covering all the errors. If you want to do it manually, well, you'll encounter a lot of errors. I've been fine-graining this script for almost 2 days to make sure that you don't have any errors. Yeah. So this is the whole backup process. Now we need to cover the process of restoring this data to a new server. Yeah. So I'm going to create a new server inside my Oracle Cloud right now. And let me just go to my account. So let me just sign in, and then we create a new server and we set it up with everything, and you'll just see the whole process. Actually, it is very easy. So I'll just log in here. So let's create a new virtual machine. So I'll just go to compute and then instances. Now this is the virtual machine that is running this n8n. Now we're going to add a new one and then clone our n8n, which is actually easy. So what I'm going to do right now is just create a new instance. Instance name will be, I'll just name it as n8n server 2. Then under the images, I'll just select Ubuntu. Well, let's just go with the 2024. This is okay with me. Just select the image, shapes. The default one is just okay. Yeah. Next. So I'm just going to use these default settings. What I need here is the private and public keys. Those are the main ones that I need right now. Then click next, and create the volume, create the virtual machine. So that's all you need to do when you're using Oracle Cloud. And this is a free VM. Actually, it's a free tier VM. I won't be charged for a lifetime. Yeah. So now it is being created. So let's just give it some time. Now we have completed the process. Yeah. So let's just go to details. And our virtual machine is this one. Yeah. So what we need here is a public IP address. So let me just go back to my terminus. So I'll just go to vaults. So I'll just add a new host. I'll add a new host here, which will be the IP address of our new server. Label will be, I'll just name it the same way, n8n server 2. And then I'm going to use a key. So select a key. I'll just n8n server 2. Then create the key. And then we're going to import the key that we downloaded earlier. So I'll just go to the well, yeah, here they are. So I'm going to use the private one. Okay, I'm not sure of which one is the pub. Yeah, I think this is the private one. Yeah, this is the private one, hopefully. Yeah, so save it and let's try to connect. Well, I had forgotten to add the username. Username will be Ubuntu. As you can see here, we have been given the username will be Ubuntu. So I'll just add the username as Ubuntu. Yeah, and add and continue. And here we are inside our new server that we have created. So we are going to just use our notes, our cheat code here. So we're going to restore. So what we're going to do is to run this command first in our new server. We just paste that. Now we have finished the update and also installing Docker. So our next step will be, let me just follow these instructions here. Yeah, our next step is to clone our script again. I hope now you can remember this is our script, this whole repository. So let's go back to our server and then paste it here. And then we are going to clone this script. If you try to list, we have our script here. Don't forget that this is the old server and this is our new server. So we are working on our new server here. So the next step will be, well, we are under the restore, is to make the scripts executable. Yeah, so let me just paste those commands. Our next step will be configure our restore script. We'll just do the same thing here. So paste, we're going to open this script and we're going to change our credentials. We're going to put our credentials here. So the username of your GitHub account that you backed up your n8n credentials or data, that is the one that we're going to put here. Or let me just say it's just the same credentials that you used in the previous section where you are backing up. It's just the same credential we're going to use here. So in my case, it will be Ong'udi done. And then the repository name is just the same repository that you used in the previous one during the backup, which was n8n backup. And inside the GitHub personal access token, you're going to use the same token that we created earlier. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it here. And that's all you need to do. Just Control X and press Y and enter. Now we have configured our script. So what we're going to do now is to, let's follow our script again. If you have the Docker, the container already running, then you can stop it. But in our case, we don't have anything there. Yeah. So we'll just run our restore script. So we'll just copy this. It will be sudo and all that stuff. So just paste it here and press enter. So the volume was not found, so it created a new volume and copied the whole data from our GitHub repository to that volume. So now if we try to search for the volume, we can see, let me just run sudo docker volume inspect. The volume name is n8n data. And you can see we have it. We have our volume here. So we are good to go. So the next thing you need to do is to now create the container, our n8n container, the new container. So I'll just copy this command here and then paste it in my terminal. But now we have a problem where in our previous n8n, it used n8n.fortunedevs.com. I hope you can remember that. our n8n is using n8n fortunedev.com. So if you have credentials here, let me just show you one of the credentials so that you can see what will change. If I open this, you can see our auth redirect URL is this one. So just to make sure that we have the same auth redirect URL so that we don't change all our credentials, we need to make sure that we use the same domain name. That is the simplest way. Or if you want to use a new domain name, you'll need to create the container and then use the sign in again. You authenticate again your new URL. But you need to make sure that you add this URL inside your, like this one will be Google APIs. You need to go and add this URL inside Google APIs, the new URL actually. But in our case, we're going to stick with this same domain name. Yeah. So I'll just go back to my terminal and I'm just going to type fortunedevs.com, and also that was the view app URL, and also the webhook will be fortunedevs.com. So that is the configuration that we need to do, and then press enter. And actually we have a problem when using Ubuntu servers. They want you to use sudo even when running Docker. So I'll just use sudo and then run this command. And now we are cloning the image and then we are going to use it to create the container. Yeah, so just give it some time since this is the first time. And we have just finished creating the container. And if I just try to look for the running containers, I'll just type sudo docker ps, and we have the n8n container running. Yeah. So if you can remember, if you have ever used this server in Oracle Cloud servers, we don't have any port open. And if you look, our container is running on port 5678. So we need to use either port forwarding, or you can use tunneling. In my case, I'm going to use tunneling, and I like using Cloudflare for that. If you have watched my previous video, I hope you have seen how I used Cloudflare for this whole process. So I'll just go to my Cloudflare account, and let me just log in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to disconnect this main server, this main n8n, and then I'm going to use the same domain name to point it to my new server. So I'm going to cut this connection. Yeah. So in this case, well, actually I'm not supposed to do, okay. I'm supposed to delete the n8n.fortunedevs subdomain. I'm supposed to delete it so that I can create it again. So in this case, I need to delete it first. So this is the subdomain that we are using for this server here. So I'm going to delete it. So delete this n8n. Yeah, delete. So we have just deleted our domain name. So what we're going to do, let me get back to, well, actually we have not done this. So let me just open a new GitHub link. So I have a repository that I created that I automated the use of Cloudflare to configure everything, so we don't have to run the commands manually. So I have this repository. I have this repository that I created. So it is this one, Cloudflare Tunnel Manager. So this is the repository that you are supposed to use. So the installation will be this, git clone. So you are going to clone this. So make sure that you get out of this directory here in our new server. So I'll just type cd and then go to home. That's all you need to do. And then I'm going to paste this cloning command here, then press enter. Now we have cloned this repository, and we are interested with this script here. This is the one that is responsible for the whole setup. So the first thing you need to do is to just go back to your server. I'm just going to show you the script. So the script is this one that I'm going to run, and I'm going to open it. Don't run it as sudo. Just use / then Cloudflare Tunnel Manager, then open it. So here is the script. The first thing you need to do is to install Cloudflare, which is option 1, then press enter. And we have just finished the first step. So the second step will be authenticate with Cloudflare. So just press 2. And you are being given this URL here. So just copy it, Ctrl+Shift+C, and then go back to your browser that you have already logged in with Cloudflare. If you can see, we had already logged in with Cloudflare here. So just open a new tab and then paste this link here. And we are going to authenticate one of the domains, and which is fortunedevs.com. This is the one that we're going to use, and just click it and authorize. And everything has been configured. You can see everything was successful here. So the next thing we need to do is to create a new tunnel. I'm going to create a new tunnel for our new n8n. So the tunnel will be n8n server 2. I'm just making sure that I use the same naming convention so that I don't forget the configurations. So we are creating a new tunnel, and well, it has created the new tunnel. So the next step will be edit the tunnel configuration so that we can use the domain name that we want and point it to this port that n8n is running, which is 55678. So just edit the tunnel configuration, which will be option 4, and select our tunnel, which will be option 4 here, which is n8n server 2. Then press enter, and here is where we are going to make the configurations. Our subdomain will be n8n.fortunedevs, and the port that the container is running, n8n container is running, is 5678. Or if you just forgot, I hope you can see it here. It is 5678. This is the port that is being used. So let's just go back to our terminal, and that's all you need to do. Just comment out this next subdomain since you are just using one domain. I'll just comment this out and then Ctrl+X and then Y. So after that, what we're going to do is to route subdomain to this tunnel. We're going to route that subdomain n8n.fortunedevs.com subdomain. We're going to route it to this tunnel that we've just created. So that will be option 5. And select the tunnel that we're going to use, that is option 4. And then the domain name that we want to route will be n8n.fortunedevs.com. fortunedevs.com. And then press enter. And now it is checking if it is being used, and we had already deleted it in our Cloudflare account, so now it created it again. If you go back to Cloudflare, if you refresh, you can see now we have a new n8n, but now it has been routed to this new tunnel that we've created. Previously it was using the old tunnel, but now we have pre-configured everything. Now it is using the new tunnel. Yeah. So if you just look at this section, we can see we have a new n8n. It has been created again. So what we're going to do next will be, we have already routed the domain, so just write done, just to make sure that you don't want to add a new subdomain. So now the next thing is to enable or disable auto. We could run it manually, but this will require you to always run it when the server has been restarted. So we're just going to use the auto start. Yeah, so that will be option 7. And then we are going to select the tunnel, which is option 4. And then we are going to enable auto start, which is option 1. Yeah. And that's all you need to do here. It is creating the whole configurations. Now, if you try to access this domain name again, if we try to access n8n.fortunedevs, you can see it is working, but now it is working on the new domain that we've just created. It is working on the new server. Actually, we are running it in our new server. So let me just refresh. Yeah, it is actually working. So it is a duplicate of our old server, n8n server, and we have everything here. Yeah, I hope you can see. So this is how we can restore our n8n information, workflows, and credentials from one server to another one. We have used GitHub, and this whole process is free. So I'll put the link of the 2 repositories that you need, which will be the first one is this for n8n GitHub sync, and also the Cloudflare tunnel manager. These are the 2 repositories that you need to use to make this successful. So thank you for watching, and if you have any question, you can let me know in the comment section.